Greetings viewers, Hugh here coming to you from London Charing Cross Station, one of the main termini of the Southeastern Metro network. Now, when you're riding the Southeastern Metro network, you can either expect the aging and uncared for 465, or the new and amazing 707. Hashtag better in blue. Don't judge me. But we're forgetting a train here, and that train might be considered the unfortunate middle child of this Metro fleet. And that train is the Class 376 Metro Electrostar. Let's go. Okay, so we are on board the 376 here at Charing Cross, and we're going to be getting this train to Elmstead Woods. And, well, as usual, let's have a look at a quick history of this train. The Class 376 is a commuter metro version of the popular Bombardier Electrostar family that has been running out of Charing Cross and Cannon Street since 2004. Of all of Southeastern's fleet, this train is by far the most outdated brand-wise, with it still being in the livery of a TOC that ceased to exist 20 years ago. In the early 2000s, the Southeastern franchise was under the control of the Connex company, and one of the main commitments for them was to replace their aging fleet of Mark I-based EMUs that ran on express services between London and the various regional centres in Kent. To replace this fleet, Connex decided to go for the newly created Adtran's Electrostar platform, which had already proven very successful with the C2C franchise, and would go on to work for a wide range of TOCs in the future. These new trains were designated as Class 375, and were slowly rolled out by Connex to replace the older Mark I-based EMUs. However, the order did not fulfill a replacement for the operator's Class 423 fleet, which ultimately led to Connex deciding to transfer some of its Metro Class 465 and 466 fleet to these services. This left a gap in the operator's Metro fleet, with rolling stock needed deeply on this busy network, and as a result, Connex decided to order a fleet of 36 Class 376 units from Bombardier, which had recently acquired Adtrans, with these being a Metro derivative of the Class 375. However, by the time these units began to enter service in 2004, Connex had already lost the Southeastern franchise, with it ultimately being transformed into the publicly owned Southeastern trains. Regardless, these units, still painted in their original Connex colours and with the original interiors, entered service during the years 2004 to 5, replacing the transferred 465 and 466 units. Since then, and despite 2 changes of franchise operator, the class still remains in service with Southeastern today, still in its original Connex livery and interior guise, which certainly makes it stand out from the other units in the Southeastern fleet, which have all had to some degree a refurbishment ever since Govia took over the franchise. However, recently there has been speculation that Southeastern will refurbish the 376s in order to keep them going for another few decades, with them running alongside the newly acquired 707s and a mystery new replacement for the 465, although Southeastern are yet to reveal what their plans are for both of these fleets. Anyway, now that's all out of the way, let's get on to the train itself. So we are now on our way from Charing Cross, heading into Waterloo East. Now, when you talk about the Class 376, a lot of people will dwell on it, and one of those reasons are the seats. And yeah, these seats, they are certainly unique amongst train seats because they are basically plastic moulding with cushions stuck to them, which even with newer trains you don't see very much. So it's certainly a rather interesting form. And of course, the maquette. Certainly very different, as I explained in the historical segment. These trains were originally ordered by Connex for the South Central franchise, but they lost it before they could take delivery. So that's why this train is still in a really bizarre yellow and white livery that Southeastern ditched quite a while ago. And of course, it's all still yellow on the inside. So this train is quite a time capsule of Southeastern's history. So in walking through the train here, you can see it's a 2x2, And of course, as we always do in our fleet review videos, although we have already technically fleet reviewed this, we'll test the undercarriage doors. It's actually got luggage racks, which is pretty cool. And, well, they are indeed functioning. And we move further forward. And this is the bizarre thing I find about this train, this bizarre open design that confused me when I first went on it. It's just a really bizarre design format that you don't really see, and you can clearly tell this train has not really been updated since it entered service with Southeastern trains back in, I think, about 2005, I want to say. The only differences I can really find is that it at least does have up-to-date network maps. You can tell because Thanet Parkway has been added. We're just leaving Waterloo East. But yeah, it's certainly a unique interior, and if you look at this door structure and all this stuff around here, there'll be a train that looks rather familiar, and I'll explain that now. So of course, the train that's rather familiar to this, especially in looking at the window shape, is the Class 378, the main metro train of the Overground network. And that is largely because these trains are of the same basic design. These are metro versions of the Bombardier Electrostar family with different doors. They're not sliding plug, they're basically pull-in. There's actually another one over there, you can see that. Very, very nice livery. I actually quite like the Connex livery. It's pretty cool. But yeah, these are basically 378s with different seats, and that's mostly it. Now, when talking about the 376, there are two features that make a lot of people dwell, and both are understandable. The first, of course, lack of toilet facilities, but the 707 also lacks toilet facilities, so it's not a massive loss. And, of course, no air conditioning. And on a hot day like today, it's the middle of May, they have the ventilators open in order to get air into the train. And I will say it is a little stuffy in here. There's actually a 700 there, a train that is actually air conditioned. So yeah, of course, in some aspects, the 376 is quite lacking in terms of, you know, having a decent air conditioning system. And Southeastern are actually planning to refurbish these, unlike the 465, which they are planning to drop, as Steve White mentioned earlier this week. They are going to probably refurb these, although they are planning maybe not to fit air conditioning. I don't know whether that's a confirmed thing, but rather interesting if you ask me. Now, I know a lot of people do have issues with the seat design on this train, and I can see why, but it's actually kind of a unique look. It's kind of a precursor to, say, the ironing board seats that you find on the Desiro Cities and the later Electrostars, and actually on the Northern Civities, if I can remember correctly. But it's actually a rather unique design, this curvy back, which you don't normally see, which makes it stand out to me, at least. Now, there is actually quite something interesting to point out. Back when Greater Anglia ran Mark III coaches on the Great Eastern Main Line, they actually had one of these seats in first class as some kind of accessibility seat. Rather bizarre. There are pictures of it, and a lot of people are going, oh, that's a unfair addition, and certainly seemed rather bizarre to me. I do apologise for the noise. We are going over very loud track as we approach London Bridge. So of course, with it being the TfL3 on a Southeastern train, and bizarrely we didn't do this in our Southeastern fleet review if I recall, we're going to see, are the seats broken? No, no, and no. Well, there you go. These trains certainly have a bit of stability on board, which is something I can definitely commend. So you might wonder why I'm doing a video on the 376. Well, because I find the 376 to sort of be the Southeastern equivalent of the SWR 458 that I looked at in a previous video. It's kind of the middle child in the domestic network. So a bit like, you know, you have the 465 here, literally one there as well, which is quite cool. And you have like the middle child that's from about the early 2000s that's rather divisive, a bit like the 458. These are both quite divisive trains in a way. And then of course you have the new stuff in the 707 in both cases. I just wanted to look at the 376 because I feel like it's a train that doesn't get much coverage. It's just, oh, it's that rubbishy Electrostar that Southeastern have, because Southeastern had the 375, which is the better Electrostar, of course, but it's a train I wanted to look at. I mean, of course, it's not the most special train out there, but it's certainly one that deserves coverage as we head onto the main line. So we've just left Hither Green, we're on our way down to Grove Park. I'm now going to just talk about why I have a soft spot for the 376. While it's definitely not the greatest train out there, it's certainly unique. I just like the how it's keeping this very old yellow and blue of the Connex times, and white obviously on a Southeastern. It's like the last man standing, as it were, of that era, which is why I just like it because of that. Yes, of course, it's not the most ideal train out there. It lacks toilets, it's missing air conditioning, it's not got the greatest seats in the world. But I at least think, you know, it's unique, and certainly when I'm travelling on Southeastern, which I'm going to be doing a lot today after I film this video, I certainly am a little bit more excited when one of these shows up. But anyway, I'll see you when we get off the train at Elmstead Woods. Elmstead Woods. Well, here we are, Elmstead Woods. That was the Class 376 Metro Electrostar, the middle child of Southeastern's Metro fleet, as you could call it. A train that is hated, justifiably in some ways, but I still think has a lot of charm in itself. Anyway, you'd think I'd end the video here, right? Well, I'm not. As apparently there is some amazing gardenery to explore at this station. So let's have a look. So apparently, according to Daniel, over on platforms 1 and 2, which are just over there, there's some like nice little shrubbery and gardenery that they have planted around here. So let's have a look at that. So I believe what he was talking about is just round here, and this is actually the fast line. So all the trains going down into Kent come along here. And, well, that's quite nice, ain't it? Well, I don't think there are many railway stations, especially in London, where you can have tranquility like this, literally in the middle of the platforms. And you can have a nice sit on the bench and admire the scenery. And also, if you're a train guy like me, and pretty much everyone who's watching this video, you can watch the trains go by. Anyway, from the absolute beauty and tranquility of this lovely little park here at Elmstead Woods Station, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really hope you enjoyed this little video, guys. See you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.